Welcome to Wannabe Clutter Free, formerly Wannabe Minimalist, the podcast for busy families who are tired of the chaos, fed up with being overwhelmed, and ready to enjoy life again. Each week, we talk about how to let go of the clutter so that you can focus on the things that actually matter. And it's not just physical clutter. We talk about the mental and emotional stuff too, because if it's holding you back, it's time to ditch it. I share what I've done in my own life to declutter, organize, and calm the chaos, but you won't just hear it from me. There are amazing guests too. It's practical, doable, and simple for those of us that want to be clutter-free. Well, hey there, my friend. Welcome back to the show. My name is Deanna Yates, and you are listening to episode 225 of the Wannabe Clutter Free podcast. On today's episode, I am chatting with Haleh Shoa about our photos. She's going to help us with some tips and tricks to not only cull our photo collection, but how we should be storing things, the difference between things we can do for our digital photos versus our analog photos, and a really important conversation we need to be having. So you definitely do not want to miss out on this episode. But before we hop into it, I want to say a quick thank you to you for joining me today. I appreciate that you make me and this podcast part of your weekly routine. And if you like what you hear, can you do me a huge favor and subscribe to the show? Turns out it's one of the best ways you can actually help our show, along with sharing it with a friend. But the subscribe is super easy, so just hit that button wherever you are listening to this episode. And thank you so much for being part of our community. If there is something you want to talk to me about, or if you have a question about decluttering, organizing, a better life with less stuff, reach out on Instagram. I've gotten a few messages this last week, which was really nice. I am at Wannabe Clutter Free over there, or you can join our private community on Facebook. It is the Wannabe Minimalist family group over there. All right, let's learn some more about my guest today. Haleh Shoa's journey is one of love, resilience, and deep appreciation of the power of memories. Growing up in a warm, close-knit family with 3 siblings, she developed a strong affinity for the stories that connect us. When the Iranian Revolution of 1979 forced her family to start anew in the United States, they could only bring a few precious belongings, including their cherished photo albums and memorabilia. And these items became Haleh's lifeline to her past, preserving the only tangible remnants of her childhood. And through these preserved images and their stories, Haleh found the solace and a connection to her roots. Her passion for photography blossomed, and she discovered a unique gift, the ability to bring joy to others by preserving and presenting their memories. Whether crafting bespoke photo albums, producing evocative films, or safeguarding treasured photographs, Haleh finds immense fulfillment in curating beautiful ways for individuals to relive and cherish their most precious moments. So with each project, she strives to honor the importance of preserving collective stories and the profound impact they have on our lives. It's a really fun conversation. She's got some amazing tips, so let's dive on in. Well, hello, Haleh. Welcome to Wannabe Clutter Free. How you doing today?
I'm so great, and I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it is my pleasure. I'm excited to talk about today's conversation. We're going to talk about digital photos and physical photos, and really, what do we do with these? You have created an entire company around it, but before we get into that, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Absolutely. Yes, I am the CEO and founder of Picturli. We are a photo archiving, which means we organize and we digitize and we scan all the analog photos, but we also specialize in all the digital clutter that we've amassed over the decades. But my favorite part is the creative, which is doing the photo books and the gallery wall art. So the first 2 services are like the meat of the company, and the last is like the joy that it brings.
Nice. I love that. And I will say photos, right? One of the things, it's so great that we have access to all of our photos on our phone, but the fact that we have our phone with us all the time makes it so much easier to take more photos every day. So I think that might have just answered, but why do you think it's so important to declutter and organize our digital photos in today's world? Because it is so unlimited.
I think we all know the answer to that, right? We're all photographers and we all are videographers now. But I think what the mishaps that have taken is that a true photographer and a true videographer, they go through what they take, right? So if you hire a photographer, which we'll talk about because I hope you do, but they go through their stuff, they curate, they cull, they go, okay, that's not a good picture. Her eyes are closed. I'm going to delete that. And we've lost that step because we all have jobs. We have kids, we have parents, we have a house to take care of, we have things on our minds. And our most precious resource our time is very limited. So it becomes cluttered when we don't go through our stuff. And of course, there's different strategies that we can all adopt, which we can talk about in order to declutter our photos. And so it's not so overwhelming.
Yeah. And I think that just the idea of, oh my gosh, I've got to start looking through these photos is really overwhelming and just honestly just makes people like you could probably just see people's body language, like their shoulders tighten up and they just get, oh, I don't want to do it. They close their eyes and oh, have this, what's the word I'm looking for? Just like it's scowl on their face, really. So, if we are overwhelmed, let's talk about where do you recommend someone starts if they just don't know where to begin? They're listening to this and they're like, yeah, I know it's been on my to do list forever, but I don't really have the time. What am I supposed to do?
Yes. If you want to tackle your entire collection, I would say start by gathering everything. So if we're talking about the digital, it would be gathering all of the platforms that your photos and videos may be on. And this is like Google, Apple, Amazon, Dropbox, even Shutterfly, Snapfish, wherever you think that you would have memories, start by making sure that you have access to those platforms. And then of course there's ways that you can download everything. And so making sure you download everything at the highest resolution possible. And then of course taking out the duplicates and things like that becomes overwhelming for a lot of people is if I know how to do that, which is why we started a business. But in terms of small steps that you can take, I would say like once a week, whatever you can afford, once a week, once a month, go through your photos and heart the ones you like. So at least you have gone through and hearted the ones that bring you joy that you may want to do a project with. The holidays are going to be coming up pretty soon. I know this is a podcast, it's evergreen, but there's always a chance for us to make a project with our photos because really that is what brings everyone the most joy. But if you heart the things that are your photos and videos that you love, then you're able to make that calendar really easily. So that's one of the things that I always try and teach my clients. And that also helps us to be able to see, oh, these are her favorites. Another sort of strategy that I like to teach is take today, for example, whatever the date you're listening to this or watching this, take today's date and go back a year and just look at the photos and videos from that date and then go back another year. And I bet you can even do 20 years in probably an afternoon because chances are you didn't take more than, I don't know, 30 photos in one day. So you're able to do that pretty easily. And if you do that every single day, your photos will be organized by the end of the year.
In a year. That's amazing. Yes, I love both of those tips. One, we do the calendar every year, and it's everyone's favorite holiday gift. The grandparents love it. My parents, our daughter's grandparents, and they absolutely love it. And we love it. We get one for ourselves too, because it shows us, it reminds us what we were doing last year. Like, what were we doing last September? Oh my gosh, when you turn it over, it's so fun. So, yes, hearting the images as you take them is key. And then I love that calendar idea too, because it is shocking. And you can search, right? In the search bar, you just type in the date and then all of those will come up for that date.
I do a lot of workshops and I teach iPhone settings. It's on our website, but it's really great to know these little tips and tricks. No matter if you're on Apple or Android, there's a map feature that you can go on. If somebody says, show me your pictures from Croatia, I can easily go on the map feature and swipe over to Croatia and click on all the different cities that we were in. That's another way you could go through your photos and videos. It's going to be really difficult to do the home stuff. Like majority of your photos and videos will be wherever you live, like around your city or whatever. But the travel stuff will be easy to curate and call that way.
Absolutely. I love those tips. And the map thing I hadn't thought of. That's a really fun one. So I will have to do that in our library because we have traveled a lot. So that will be a fun way to then cull those pictures as well. All right. What are some common mistakes people make when they are trying to organize their photos? I'm sure everyone makes that. Not everybody does, but it can get more complicated than it needs to be. So, what are some of the things we should avoid doing? Let's take a quick break. And when we come back, Haleh is going to help us uncover some of the biggest mistakes that people make when decluttering their photos. She's already given us some amazing tips, and you definitely do not want to miss this one.
I'm Margaret.
And I'm Amy.
And together we host the podcast, What Fresh Hell? Laughing in the Face of Motherhood.
Margaret, I would say you're sort of a where are my keys kind of mom.
Correct. Sometimes a where are my kids kind of mom. While you're, Amy, more of a we were supposed to leave 35 seconds ago, mom.
I mean, touche. In each episode of What Fresh Hell, we come at a topic from our usually completely opposite perspectives. I bring the research.
And I bring kind of the gimlet eye. Like, is that research really going to work, people?
And almost 10 million downloads later, we're still laughing.
We also talk to experts in the parenting field, plus parents with stories we can all learn from.
We make each other laugh, we challenge each other's assumptions, and we have what we think is the best parenting community on the internet.
Check out What Fresh Hell? Laughing in the Face of Motherhood wherever you listen to podcasts.
All right, welcome back.
If you want to tackle your analog stuff, make sure as you're going through it, I know what happens, a lot of people go, oh, I'm going to help you out and take things out of albums. Well, those albums have a sense of organization to them already. So what you want to do is you want to make sure whatever you're taking out of those albums for a project, let's say it's a celebration, whether it's a life celebration or an anniversary of sorts, make sure you write on the back which album it came from, because then it becomes like, I don't know what decades these are in. You want to be able to preserve all the information that you can, especially analog stuff. Because in our studio, we make sure we organize everything chronologically so that when we scan it, we rename and redate everything. And that's really important. Even whatever the listeners want to do, even if they don't want to rename and redate, at least it could end up in a folder that's called 1940s, right? And so it's really important to preserve the information of where these photos have come from, whether it's the album, the decade. So the mistake that happens is a lot of people take things out of envelopes and albums and they're like, oh, oops, I don't know where they came from. So that's one of the biggest things that happens.
All right. Well, thanks for keeping us on point for that one. Because also, let's talk about analog, right? So someone like myself, I don't have a lot of analog photos. I think I have one shoebox filled with every analog photo that I have in my life. And they're up on the wall behind me.
I love that wall.
You. But my parents, right? They have, oh my gosh, an entire closet filled with analog photos. And I did help my mom go through and at least get rid of the duplicates, pull those out so we could give those to the people that were in the photos. I went through lots and lots of shoeboxes. We did get rid of lots of photos that were blurry and just nobody needed those photos. So it was good to have a first cull. But now when I inherit those photos, which hopefully will be lots and a very long time from now, what in the world am I supposed to do with all of that? How do we get started?
It's a lot. I know. It's, you probably have them all in batches, and those batches have some meaning to them. It could be 1984 Christmas, right? So you could start scanning them with that card in the front, 1984 Christmas. So at least when it's their scan, they're in order of what that batch is. Or Halloween, or all the things that we keep are the markers, right? The summer travels that we go to. A lot of our clients have maybe a little cabin somewhere else, like a family cabin that they go to, or whatever the cadence of your family is. Whatever you guys did in the summers, you probably did it every summer when you guys were kids. So keeping that information with the batches when you want to scan it, just so that you are able to know later on that you can learn how to rename and redate it so that it becomes like a sortable and searchable library.
I love that. All right. What conversation should we be having with our loved ones when we're like, okay, we got to get these in order? And photos are so precious, right? Nobody wants to touch their photos. They all think, but I need every single photo in that closet. And we know they don't, because we know there are the duplicates. And gosh, you got to go back to the 80s when every single set was a duplicate. And then they gave you a CD with them all scanned in the 90s. You've got all this extra stuff. So what are the conversations we should start having with our loved ones so it doesn't all fall on us when we don't want to do it either?
Yeah, exactly. These are such important conversations to be had, because once your elders are gone, a lot of the stories can be gone too. I think that's what happens a lot is most of our parents have died. And I think this is their first cousins because they look like them and they look like us, but we don't know who they are. So really go through the photos. Even if you don't want to deal with tackling the organization or the decluttering of the photos, write little sticky notes as to who these people are and if they're important. Just go through that with the parents or have them do that if they have the faculty and the time to do it. So I think that's the most important thing, because and a lot of our clients whose parents have passed, they end up just throwing a lot away. That is very sad, like old photos. And they have our permission to do that because there's so much guilt involved. It's, oh my God, I'm so sorry that I didn't ask that of my parents. So that's the first thing we really get, is that they're really sorry that they didn't go through the photos and ask who the people were. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, that's fantastic, right? Bringing it back to sharing this moment of connection and story and finding out, why is this box of photos important, right? What was this album about? Who's in there? Learn more about them. Because I was thinking the other day, our daughter's 11, and there are moments where we will do something and she'll be like, I didn't know you could do that. And I'm like, I know. I was a whole human being before you were born. Shocking. I know. But the thing is, you also have to have that moment about your parents. They were whole human beings before you entered the picture. So, yeah, learning some of those stories, I think if we look at it from that angle, I absolutely love that take and that spin on it. So thank you for putting in that perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't want to, let's not forget to talk about a little bit about how we can protect our digital and what we can not.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's circle back to that. Let's do it.
Yeah, I highly recommend everyone to make sure that their computer is backed up to a program like Backblaze. And I can give that to you in the notes, or Time Machine if you're with Apple. Backblaze is computer agnostic. It works on a PC, it works on a Mac. I have that on all of our computers. And I, in fact, have it for our server at work as well. It works quietly in the background. It just uploads all your assets. So that's the first thing, is just to make sure that you have a secure backup, knowing that if your computer dies or if any of your hard drives die, which they fail all the time, that it's securely backed up. And what's great about Backblaze is that you can connect it to a computer and you can tell the account, hey, can you back up these particular hard drives that are connected to this computer? And it will do that. So it's really important to have that set up. And also just make sure you download your originals once a year and back that up on an external hard drive. We have, of course, I don't think Apple Photos, Google, or Amazon Photos are going to go anywhere. And it's okay if everyone is taking their photos through one of those platforms. But just know that owning your own assets is really what my goal is, to learning how to own your own assets and for it not to just be in one source, and to make sure that it is, so you have access to the high reses and you're able to back that up.
Okay. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember reading one time that Google doesn't store, depending on how you use Google, that it doesn't necessarily store them high res. Am I mistaken, or is there a certain setting people need to be looking at? All right, let's take one more quick pause, and then Haleh is going to give us the rundown of the battle of the cloud services, Google, Amazon, and Apple, and what has changed even just over the last year.
Yeah, you're not mistaken. It's really all about payment with Google. If you're making a payment, they will keep the high res. There's nowhere that you can access it. Apple allows you to be able to access it on your computer, the high reses, but Google they got rid of that in July of 2019. And then Amazon got rid of that last year. Oh, yeah. And then Apple also has what's called Optimize. So if you have an iPhone, I'm sure all of you guys have Optimize on, because you're not going to have enough space on the actual phone to be able to download the high res. But make sure that on your computers, you have the download original. And if you don't have the space for that, you can always sort it and store it on an external hard drive.
Good to know. Yeah, because all that stuff takes so much space. And then videos, you've got videos on top of that. And let's just talk about how much space videos take. It's crazy.
Oh my gosh, I know. And these live photos that people take, and they're like, how do you fly? It's live. Live photos is a photo and a video. So it's like two different files. So when we download it, we get a video and we get a photo. And it just takes up so much space. So if you're not intentionally taking live photos, please go in and just turn it off and make sure it's just turned off every time you take a photo, because it does take a lot.
Yeah. Well, and I noticed you can do that after the fact too, right? I think you can turn live off. I don't know if it deletes the file. Probably not. Yeah, but you can turn it back on. It's not going to delete it. Good to know. Yeah. And then that does happen, right? You accidentally take it and then, yeah.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I have taught in my iPhone workshop is really being intentional with how you take photos and videos. I know a lot of people are like, oh, yeah, I have so many bursts, but I don't know why. But if you have a lot of bursts that you took accidentally, just go in and delete them. Or maybe you have a lot of slow-mo videos, or the one that goes really fast. The name escapes me now.
Active? It used to be active. I don't know what it's called now.
Time lapse.
Oh, yes, time lapse. Oh, I love time lapse.
I do too. I love time lapse. But if you're not taking a time lapse intentionally, they're really large videos and they are taking up space. And there is such a thing as your digital footprint. And again, these tools on an iPhone, you can go into albums, scroll all the way down. And that's where you have access to all your screenshots, which many people have so many screenshots. And they're like, oh, I didn't know that I could go there and see all of them. So you could just go there and delete all your because you don't need.
That is a great tip. That is great. Yes, all those albums are down at the bottom. Yes, so scroll, scroll, scroll. You'll find videos, slow-mos, bursts, screenshots, all of those things. So absolutely.
And duplicates.
Now they have duplicates? Ooh.
We have duplicate remover, and you can trust it. Apple's really great with that. And I had 2,300 duplicates in mine. I was like, wait, what? How did that happen? But because of all the different movements remember back in the day, it was iPhoto, and then it became photos, and then it just changed. The library system changed. It just created some duplicates. And it's better than deleting. So I'd rather have duplicates than have a chunk of time deleted. So
totally. Yeah, absolutely. And then too, what's nice is, I'm just going to say for everyone listening to this, if you are feeling like, oh gosh, of course they're going to have it together, right? We would just like to point out that, yes, we still have to do the work ourselves. Please know that there is no judgment on this end, and we're doing the work. The reason we share is because we have been there.
Absolutely. It is a work in progress, and curating and calling your own photos is really hard. And in fact, like I had to give my stuff to one of my employees and say, I'm going to trust you. You just curate as you do any client. And because it's so hard, like I get into it and I'm like, okay, so this was our trip to Cuba, but I love this photo, but I love that photo. And I love all of them. They're all my babies. But yeah, you don't need 10 photos in a church. You need maybe one.
Pick your favorites. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, and I love that separation too of it's really hard because it brings up so many emotions for you where someone else doesn't have that emotional attachment, and they can be really objective and say, no, this is the better photo. And you probably will forget about the 9 you took, because I guarantee you before you started looking at that album, you didn't know how many there were in that, how many photos you actually had of that same setting. All right. So what are your tips for storing physical photo albums? Because again, I'm not going to get my parents to give them up. So do you have any tips on, I know like the archiving paper and that kind of stuff? Are there things we need to be aware of? Because we've all heard horror stories about how you have these in closets and moths get to them where the paper disintegrates and there go your photos. So any tips there?
So if you don't have the ability to go through your photos and organize them, the very first thing I want everyone to do, and do it for yourself and do it for your parents, is to make sure those albums, whatever they're in, make sure they're in the house. They're not in the attic. They're not in the basement. They're not in the garage. Photos and memories in general like to live in the same sort of ways that humans like to live. They want to be in the same temperature that we live. They want to be in the same humidity that we're in. Just make sure that they're with you And it's okay if it's in a closet as long as it's not next to a water pipe. And I say this because we've had so many experiences. Like my cousin just had a flood in her basement. She wasn't even there. She was in California. And she went home to 8 feet of water and all her photos were there. And it's just a disaster because we actually had a lot of photos in her photo albums. And she kept saying, oh, I'll get to that. I'll get to that. And, it's a thing that you can't replace. So make sure that they are safe in the home and hopefully that you guys have space for that. So that's number one. Number two is if you do have the time to go through it and throw out the ones that you are blurry or duplicates and things like that, make sure you keep the negatives and keep it with that batch because the negatives are the original. And then you could get some archival boxes. We use archivalmethods.com. We use that platform and some others to purchase our archival boxes. So as you're going through them, even if you don't want to get them scanned, you can buy some beautiful archival boxes and just put them in there. And they have so many different variations. The one quick note about like VHS tapes and DVDs, no matter how much you spend and you put them in nice archival boxes, they're still going to disintegrate. So it's the photos that will be kept, but those DVDs and VHSs, just get those digitized wherever you are. There's always someone in your local area that is able to help you digitize those and make sure that once you get the digital back, they're backed up. But in terms of slides and negatives and children's artwork, I know a lot of our clients are like, oh my God, what do I do with all this children's artwork? You absolutely have our permission to get them scanned. And even if you're just taking a photo with your phone, you can.
I'm on board. And as your kids get older, they also won't care as much. Like you might think that they care now. I said, we have an 11-year-old. We've done it enough times where I don't need that. I don't need that. That's fine. No, I don't like that one. And she has her own opinion on the art she wants to keep. And the reminder is that this is their art. This is going to them at the end. You're keeping it right now for you. And then if you are planning to keep it for them, then listen to the ones they want to keep and the ones they want to toss.
I do have a handful of clients where their kids' artwork is really stunning. I'm like, what? They did that at 5? I'll take that. I'll put that on my wall. But in the rare instance that your child is a true savant, then please, by all means, keep everything. But in most cases, I say,
yeah, I'm on board. I'm on board. And then pick your favorites too. Like we have one of the paintings she did hung on our gallery wall and I love it. And it fits in perfectly with our style and what's on that wall. So I absolutely love being able to have her represented on that wall too. Be creative. Yeah.
Can I give a quick creative tip?
Yes, please.
I think it's so wonderful to make an intentional photo book like every year of your kid with their artwork. If they are like really into their drawings and artwork and things like that, and you really truly don't have the space, you could take photos of them. And then, so when you're making a photo album, you could put their artwork on one page and their photos of that week or month on the page next to it. So you can see what they look like when they were making that artwork. It's so cute and they will love it. And that's the best gift you could give them instead of holding on to those artworks that may not even trigger a memory when they're 25.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's an upgrade to the tip I normally give, which is take a picture of them holding the piece. But I love the idea of them creating the piece. So that's really fun. Very cool. Love that spin. Awesome. All right. Any other things that we really need to know about our photos that that I'm remiss and didn't ask?
I think we covered a lot. I know it's really overwhelming. I would say, honestly, if you want to take this on and take it on your own, give yourself a lot of grace. I have created a 7-step guide to archiving your photos, which I'll give you the show notes. You can put that in the show notes on how people can sign up for that. There's a lot of great tools in there and tips and things like that. It's just a guide, right? It's not going to give you the exact what to do first, second, third, 27 steps later. But it will definitely inspire you to get going. And you really, most importantly, just get together with your parents and make sure that their photos are stored properly Make sure yours are stored properly, whether it's analog or digital. That's just the most important things. Like those three things I can give tips on, like the most important.
Such good advice. That's wonderful. Oh, great. Well, Haleh, where can people find you? I know they're going to want to follow up. We will have links in the show notes to that guide and to the other resources we mentioned, but where can they find you?
They can actually book a complimentary consult with us through the link in the show notes, but visit us on Picturli, Picturli. It's a different spelling, but it's picturli.com. And if you're in Los Angeles, give us a call and come visit us in our studio.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, I'm not too far away. I'm down in San Diego, so we'll have to get together sometime. That'd be really fun.
Yeah, I would love that. I'm going to San Diego in April for a conference. So,
Ooh, fantastic. Then we'll definitely meet up. I will be around. Very cool. This has been wonderful. And my favorite way to wrap up every episode is with 3 rapid fire questions. So the first one is, what does clutter-free mean to you?
peace of mind.
That's a good one. Yeah. And honestly, getting your digital photos and physical photos in order, oh, such a peace of mind, right? Absolutely. You can just feel it. As I said, the opposite of what I described at the beginning of this episode.
Anything like I decluttered my garage yesterday, and I was like, I went into it this morning. I'm like, oh, I love this garage now.
Yeah. So nice. Oh, so nice. All right. Number 2, what's making you happy right now or in this season of your life?
Being able to create. I'm very creative and I just love it. I'm also a life coach and I absolutely love my life and business coach clients where I can help them. So that's brings me a lot of joy.
Oh, super fun. And number 3, what is a goal you have for yourself this year?
Oh, to figure out where we're going to travel next year.
Ooh, nice. What's on the short list?
Japan.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So only one on the short list.
And there's Japan, there's Alaska, and my husband wants to go to many different states. He wants also Oklahoma. He's very much into rock and roll. He was a rock and roll photographer. And he wants to go to Graceland. He wants to go to Tulsa. There's anything that has to do with Bob Dylan.
Ah, cool. Awesome. All right. Very fun. I can't wait to hear what wins out.
Yes. Please, follow us on Instagram. We do a lot of really actually very good content on Instagram and YouTube. So make sure to follow us on those channels.
Cool. See where you end up traveling. That sounds awesome. Very cool. Thank you so much for joining us, Haleh.
Thank you so much.
Have a great day. Well, I loved that conversation. Haleh and I connected on our love of travel and our appreciation of photos that we actually love and cherish. I love her tips on getting the stories of the people in the photos now before it is too late. And even though I have a ton of time left with my parents and mother-in-law, God willing, it is never too late to start. So I know what I'm going to be asking about this year at the holidays. But I would love to know what you thought of this episode and our conversation. So if you want to leave a comment or join in the conversation over on Facebook, you can join our private community. It is the Wannabe Minimalist group over there. And if you want to reach out on Instagram, I am at Wannabe Clutter Free on that platform. And don't forget to subscribe to this podcast to continue to get decluttering and organization inspiration sent to you weekly. Thanks again to Haleh for joining us and offering us such amazing advice, and even some upgrades to things that I'm already doing in our home and I can't wait to implement. I will be back here next week when I will be chatting with Shannon Lako about the hard conversations we need to be having with family members who keep giving gifts that are clutter, and we'll also touch on the sentimentality behind our clutter. You are not going to want to miss that episode. So until next time, keep things simple, keep thinking clutter-free, start deleting the easy photos, those ones in the hidden folders like bursts and screenshots that you might even be surprised that you have. But better yet, start hearting your favorite photos. And please remember that I believe in you and I know you can reach your goals. Thank you again for making this podcast part of your weekly routine. I'm Deanna Yates and you've been listening to Wannabe Clutter Free. I'll see you next week. Cheers.